everybody, and thank you for coming to our Value 90X, the last lunch and learn of the year. I'm very excited about our presentation today with Jim Brewer. We'll talk about that in just a second. I'm Tom Bronson, and I am president of Mastery Partners. Mastery Partners is a consulting business that helps business owners build long-term value and then understand what it takes to be able to successfully exit their business. Jim Brewer is a partner with Mastery Partners. He is one of our value building partners. We have two groups of partners at Mastery. They're the value builders, the people that actually go in and implement and make changes in business to improve long-term value. And then we have our transition partners like Shane, and there are some that kind of live on both sides, you know, that might actually be a part of each side of those transactions. But Jim is going to tell us a little bit about it. Has anybody read the book Traction? It's a brilliant book. I read it about a week before Jim and I had coffee a couple of months ago, and then he gave me another copy of the book. I've read it 3 times since. I just think it is brilliant. I think, man, why didn't I read this 25 years ago when I was struggling with all these issues in these small businesses? Except it wasn't invented until like 2012. So I think that's when the book came out, was 2012. But Jim is an expert in EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and I'll let you take it from there, Jim. Well,
sounds perfect. So, here's what I have in mind. My objective in doing this is really to do it in the context that we assemble as Mastery Partners, and that is, how do we build value in our businesses, right? So there's a lot of EOS that just makes the company run better, reduces turnover, you know, there's a lot of different impact. But I'm going to try and focus today on those aspects. And I invite the people in the room, Shane, Tom, as we're going through, if it resonates about growing value in the business, give us a ditto.
Yes. And
so I'm going to talk a little bit about who Gino Wickman is, a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about the EOS model kind of across the board. I'm going to talk about specifically, I want to make this a little bit more of a workshop than a presentation. So we're actually going to do a little work together about our businesses or about one of our clients' businesses. However it occurs for you, we're going to do some real work. They're all in 30 minutes. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the process and how someone goes from reading the book to getting Traction implemented in their business. And we'll save a few minutes for questions. So Gino Wickman started in a family-owned business at 21 years old. He spent his time in his family-owned business, you know, probably till he was the lofty age of 30, when they were able to actually sell that business. Just as importantly, he participated in a peer group called EO. I'm a big fan of peer groups. Both Shane and Ivan are a member of my Vistage peer group, where we get business leaders together. He participated in a peer group called EO and was one of the founding members of the Detroit chapter. And what he discovered is he was pretty good at analyzing what made a business work and coming up with some turnkey steps to take in order to make those things work. So he began to cobble together, and those are the same words that he uses, cobble together. I'm not diminishing his effort there, but cobble together real world principles. This isn't any, you know, lofty intellectual exercise. This is right down at the meat of what makes a business work. There's now about, and there's a misprint on this slide, there's about 20,000 days of professional implementers like myself or Jeff Whittle that walk people through the process. I don't know how we could count the number of people that just read the book and went out and tried to do something. It's going to be a much larger number, but there's 20,000 facilitated days that we spend with our clients in order to help them go through the process. We focus on vision, really understanding where your business is going, what that event horizon looks like for selling your business, The traction, how do you keep the people accountable and make things happen in your business in order to have that happen? And really being healthy. This doesn't have to be drip torture. You can actually have fun while you're doing growing your business. Our clients, the fit for EOS, and there's other management frameworks that are out there. EOS is a particularly good fit for smaller organizations up to 250, 300, 400, 500 employees. Depends on the business model when the framework runs out of steam or isn't totally applicable. And it's really important the mindset of the entrepreneur that's going through the process. If they have a growth mindset, if they're looking to say, where am I not doing things right? Where can I do things better? Then they'll take to this methodology and make it work. For the arrogant, command-oriented kind of thing, my business would succeed if just my people would listen to me. They're not going to benefit very much from EOS. Let me tell you a little bit about my story. It's the least important of all of these things. But I started as an entrepreneur when I was 21 years old. I spent a long time in my career in the technology sector. The most notable thing, I worked for a little company called CompuServe, and we bought a young entrepreneur, had a local area network business here in Dallas. His name was Mark Cuban. It was Mark's first business called Micro Solutions, used to be on Central Expressway for the old Dallasites there. So I had an opportunity to go from buying his business to working directly with Mark to take what he had as a single city model and make it a multi-city model. So that was big fun. I ended my career not in the technology sector, but in the healthcare sector. When we added drugs to the Medicare system, I was part of one of the companies that applied for and got the national grant to sell drug benefits to the 25 million Medicare beneficiaries. We grew that company from $20 million to $1.3 billion in 3 years. We were number 9 in 2006. We were number 1 in 2007. It's one of 3 times ever on the Inc. list that $1 billion company has made it Inc. number 1, because it's hard to move a big number, right? And we were in an exceptionally target-rich environment. It wasn't all because that Jim Brewer was really smart. We were in a golden opportunity, one of the most rare opportunities that I've ever seen in my career, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Kind of the dog that caught the bus. The reason that matters is we used a framework there. We went off-site and said, we've got a big adventure in front of us. How do we do this? And hooked up with a framework, and I began to understand that frameworks are what make things happen. Because the alternative is this. We're figuring it out ourselves. Our teams are figuring it out ourselves. We're looking at data and numbers, and we're looking at procedures, or we're reading books, or we're doing this or that, and we're doing a one-off solution to our business. Some people are really good at it. They're very successful. They end up buying and selling 100 companies, but not everybody is.
Well, they weren't all winners, Jim.
I didn't know whether you were going to tell me. So let us talk a little bit about what the EOS model is. And we had an interesting conversation right before we started about what makes EOS work. And the first thing that makes it work is it's not a solution that is imposed upon you. It is driven around your business. And as you implement EOS, you operate from what you have to do. So it begins with vision. And we go through a very structured process, and this is the game that we're going to play in just a few minutes, is talking a little bit more about vision. But we go through vision in order to know where we're going. It's only a successful vision if we really own it. All of our leadership and employees know where we're going. And even our clients know what our vision is. The second component is people. you don't get to building a great company, even if you have a great vision, if you don't have great people. The next aspect is data. And it's important that we run our business on data and facts and not on emotion. Because emotions are going to go up and down, right? Data, scorecards, having measured facts, being able to deal with those things gives you a real opportunity to succeed. The next component that EOS asserts is true in every business is there's a set of processes. Onboarding processes for your customers, HR processes, financial processes. There is a handful of processes that your company runs on. Knowing what those processes are, optimizing those processes is the key to success, and then making sure that they're really followed inside the organization. The next component to the EOS model is called issues. You don't go after a great vision with great people, even driven by data, without having some issues. Now, issues aren't necessarily bad things. They could be dealing with constraints or shortcomings that are happening inside your business, or they could be great opportunities that suddenly present themselves to you. But you have to have a process in order to deal with the issues. The last component, may not surprise any of you that have been thinking ahead, is called traction. And it's not an accident that it's at the bottom of this wheel, because vision is up here. Traction, which smells like accountability, it smells like a rhythm inside your meetings, an opportunity to really get everybody in the organization on the same page. That's traction. That's down at the ground. So let's go through and play a little game. Pass those out, would you come? Sure. So what we're going to do, and what you see on the page, is all of those elements from EOS. And down beneath the big things that I just outlined is the tool set that we use in order to get there. So the first set of tools, and this is where we're going to play, and I invite you to turn to the second page in that, is vision. In order to determine what our vision is, we address 8 questions. And you should be on the vision side of the form. So there's a traction side and a vision side. Thank you, Vanna, for doing that. So we're gonna go through and play with each aspect of these 8 questions, just at a very cursory level, because we don't have very much time. So first of all, core values. Great companies succeed because they have a culture. Mark talked about that brilliantly last month. So that culture, those set of core values are really important. It is the lens by which you can look at every one of your associates that are out there. So by a show of hands, how many folks in their organization, trusted advisor group or company, have a set of core values that you can recite right now? Good. A much bigger number. So Shane is a client, as I mentioned. They are going through the EOS process, even as we speak. What are the core values at Allegiance Capital?
We're going through our core values now. We're still putting this together. I think our Vision Day 2 coming up in about 4 or 5 weeks.
Yep, we will finalize. We've had Vision Building Day 1.
So what we really started looking at is the people that we have there and who do we want, kind of right people, right seats, and that's really helped us hone in on what's important to us, and it really comes down to we want people that are creative, hardworking, and are client-centric. That they focus on people. So we're still working through it though.
Yeah. So one can see. So core values, Jeff.
It's on my business card. Objectivity, integrity, and diligence.
And why did you put that on your business card?
So I can remember a meeting like this.
No, the real answer.
Yeah, no, it's things that are important to me. It's how I live my life, and it's important to my clients.
Yeah, very good. So that's key, I think. It's not only the core values that we have as business owners or leaders in the organization, it filters down to the rest of the organization, and it matters to our clients, right? So core values. The next aspect, the next question we begin to address ourselves is core focus. What is that one sentence called mission statement, hedgehog concept, called by a lot of different names, but what is that one sentence set of words that describe your unique, special ability in the marketplace for your company? Do we have mission statements across the board? Everybody have a mission statement? What's your mission statement, Ivan?
What business do you want me to do?
Yukon.
Yeah, mission statement, Yukon improving people's vision.
That works. Yeah,
Yeah.
that works. So, am I being persuasive? Do we understand why it might be helpful to get the leadership team on the same page and really recognizing that unique aspect of our business that we can take to the marketplace?
Yeah, I want to jump in, Jim.
Please.
I've had many clients who say, when I ask them, what is your core values, what is your vision? And they struggle to articulate it, and I say, well, do your people understand it? Oh yeah, they get it. Well, if you can't articulate it,
What are the chances?
what are the chances of them? And by the way, even if you are clear on it, you have to articulate that to your people in order for everybody to get on the same page. You talked about that last month, I think. Just because you have those core values, if everybody doesn't live by them and can recite them and understand them, then it's an exercise.
And not only internal, but external as well, right? So to be able to differentiate yourself in the, think about night vision scopes for the sporting community. How did you say it again, Ivan?
Improving people's vision.
Improving
And its abilities, because we extend senses together with vision.
Yep, yeah. So you can see where that would matter to your customers. So that's core focus.
It's interesting. I was going to jump
Please,
in too.
please do,
Just-
Mark.
Just say one thing. It's kind of fun because this year, so a couple of business clients, family-owned businesses, they're on their second generation of ownership, and so one of them was when, well, out of the three companies, two of them were 30 plus years in business. The other one's 40-something years in business. They never had a vision, mission, core values. It was just fascinating to walk them through that process because everybody we talk to, we do a needs assessment right up front to get to know the leadership. And everybody it was almost like everybody worked for a totally different company.
Yeah.
And that's when you went back to the business leaders to say, what do you think, when I think about grading your organization, how do you think you're doing? When everybody says this, it's like some people say squirrel, some say mango, some say llama. I'm like, that's not a way to have a cohesive. We're talking to the top leaders of the company, so it's kind of interesting.
Squirrel, mango, and llama were your go-tos on this?
Yes, they were.
And
Very different. That's different.
And so I think that's a great point, and it's one for all of us. And it is that we can survive without these things. We can't thrive without these things. And this is about thriving. This is about getting traction and being healthy and really thriving. So that is a core focus for the amount of time we've got today. The next piece is as germane an item as there could be to this group. And it's called in the EOS model the 10-year target. Let me tell you, it's misnamed because it's not always 10 years. Sometimes it's 8 years, sometimes it's 5 years, sometimes it's 20 years. But it's the event horizon that Tom talked about. It's the ability to have a long-term plan for what's going to happen to your legacy and making sure that the rest of your leadership team knows what it is. So we go through a very powerful exercise in looking at what is your 10-year, 8-year, 7-year, whatever number it is of a target. And what does it look like for the founder, and what does it look like for the rest of the organization? It should be broad enough that it covers both. The next question that we address is marketing strategy. So again, not just your unique ability and where we are, but what's your differentiator in the marketplace? What are the 3 unique items that you have as part of your company that other people can't say? When you get into the most difficult, the largest, the greatest opportunity sales situation, what pushes you over the edge, right? If you know that, you can pull it out of your bag of tricks and work it. And if you don't know what it is, what are the chances of that? The next aspect of this is to know exactly target who are you going after and really recognizing your niche. Because, well, I've spent a fair amount of time in a bunch of different industries. The advertising industry comes to mind. If you talk to most advertising agencies and say, hey, I've got a marketing problem, I've got a branding problem, can you help me? What's the answer?
Oh, yeah.
Always yes, right? Always. I don't do business with people whose answer, when I say, what is it that you do? And they say, well, what do you need? Oh, yeah, we do that. I don't do business with them. I'm looking for somebody that says, let me tell you what I don't do. Because the power is much of the time in no, right? So that's marketing strategy. Then we refine it to a 3-year picture. We get enough out there to say, where are we going towards that 10-year target? But what is the little bit closer in? So now we can tie it to revenue numbers. We can tie it to bottom line numbers. We can tie it to measurables, which we go through with each of the organization in order to find out what else is it in your company that you can begin to measure that really represents your business in a ubiquitous, a complete sort of way. And so we do that. And then we address the other questions, flip the thing to the other side. The other side is the traction side. We take the 3-year picture and we resolve it to a 1-year plan. 2020 is coming up. By a show of hands, how many people have a strong item by item plan for 2020 today?
Strong is a big word. I have a plan, but you gotta realize life is unpredictable.
Exactly.
See why I love it? So, not too many hands. 15 days from when 2020 starts. Right? The next step after we really refine the 1-year plan is to break that down into 90-minute increments. Because what the research says is human beings and teams can't focus on anything longer than 90 days. They can look out over the horizon, but when it comes to day-to-day kind of activities, it's a short, you're nodding your head, it's a short window. And it's only a short window if you have a 90-day goal and you meet with your team on a regular rhythm in order to make sure that you've identified those goals, you're measuring them as you go along, and you know whether you're making progress towards each of those goals. So in EOS language, we call those rocks, and where that term comes from, I'll have to tell you later. I don't have quite enough time. The last thing is you don't get to be involved with a big vision and take it down to the ground with traction without having issues. So we bring 2 tools to the program for issues. We begin to look at an issues list. We have methodologies where you capture all of the issues that are important to your business on a weekly kind of basis. And we have a methodology to solve issues. We identify, we discuss, and we solve, and you say, well, that's not too unique. Almost everybody identifies their problems, discusses them, and solves them. The difference in the EOS process is where do you put your time and energy? In most issue processing that happens as we sit with our management teams, we spend a lot of time discussing the issue. And we repeat ourselves. And then somebody else repeats it again from the other side of the table. And we don't really get it solved, and we step into the next week's meeting with exactly the same issue. So being able to identify and clearly identify what's root cause of that individual issue. Let's discuss it. Now let's put the energy towards solving that issue. And so that's the IDS process. I'll quickly go through the tools. The tools for data, it's coming up with a scorecard, coming up with measurables. A process is really documenting everything, make sure they're followed by all issues we just covered. People is really understanding and being able to put the right people in the right seats. Now, how do we get there from here? How am I doing on time? Pretty good?
Doing great.
Okay, cool.
About 10 minutes.
So, you can read the book and self-implement and try it out. Or you can work with a guy like Jeff or I in order to walk you through the process. What we do is it starts with a 90-minute meeting. That 90-minute meeting has the business owner and the decision makers at the table, and really only the business owner, because ultimately he or she is the decision maker in the process. And we go through in 90 minutes and spell this out in much more detail than I can do in 20 or 30. We articulate what's in it for you, right? You don't want to start this journey without being able to say, how can it help me strengthen these 6 components of my business? And what's that worth if I can strengthen that? So we articulate where we're going in the 90-day. Then we start the journey. The journey begins surprisingly not with the 8 questions that we just struggled with, and a lot of companies really begin with vision statements and mission statements. EOS doesn't do that. We begin with how do we hold our teams accountable? How do we establish where we're going? We look at the basic structure of the company, the accountability chart. We look at 1 year and specifically what's going on in the next 90 days. We begin to examine and implement what makes a great meeting, and we come up with the beginning of a scorecard. What are we going to measure in our business on a day-to-day basis to say we're getting there? Once we attack some of these traction components, then we move to answering those 8 questions, and that's a couple of facilitated days. So it's about 30 days typically from when we do the 90-minute till we start the process. It's another 30 days between focus day and vision building. We reinforce, start to work with the tools that we've learned so far, begin to address the 8 questions. You can't do all of that in one day. About 30 days later, you do vision building day 2. Once you finish this, the tools that I described on the wheel, you've gotten those first set of tools. There's a few more that I train as we go through the quarterly and the rest of the process based on need for each one of the individual companies. But you have use of the tools. You know how to run a meeting that everybody rates as a 10 at the end of the day. You may not be there yet, but you've had the tools. Then we start into a quarterly process, obviously 90-day quarterly process, and then we do a 2-day annual that not only captures the learning from the last year, but where are we going from there. That's EOS. What questions come to mind?
doing this with a new company, how early will they see results? And what are some of the first things to just, the small wins or whatever at the beginning that will give them impetus to keep going?
Great question, Jeff. So I'm going to stretch my credibility here a little bit, so I ask you to take a little of this on faith. But you begin to see some benefits from the get-go. There's something that happens in that first focus day that changes organizations forever. Whether they never go past just the focus day. But in that immediate activity, there is real benefit. The first one occurs with what we call accountability chart. I had a client, had a vice president of sales, and another individual that headed up all of their operations. They're in the commercial construction business. And Focus Day scared both of those individuals because accountability becomes not a word. Maybe this is easier in the military where accountability may be more institutionalized than it is in the private sector. But accountability scared those leaders. Those were $250,000 a year kind of leaders. They walked. They replaced them. They brought leaders in that were willing to work with everybody else, that were going to move from a command and control kind of a structure to getting the rest of their teams on board. You know, the weekly meetings and being accountable to, here's what I said I would do, and let me tell you whether or not it's done. Challenges some people. And so immediate benefits. Shane, when did you guys begin to see benefits?
Right after Focus Day 1. So we had a really strong, kind of like Jim Collinsall, level 4 leader. He passed away 2 years ago. And so we have the management team, but everyone was kind of struggling with accountability and taking ownership. And so that's what this allowed, really, to first implement that ownership and accountability and, having responsibilities for each one of those individuals. And now the conversation with that management team is moving more strategic and vision focused on what we want, who the right people are for the organization, and where we want to be 12, 24, 36 months down the road. So, but I'd say right after Focus Day 1, it really changed the mindset of that ownership team or leadership team that we have at our firm.
Now, so it has an impact quickly. How long until it is institutionalized?
Oh, great question. So one of the things I do as I go through this process and as we finish Focus Day, we started all the way in the 90-minute, but after we finish Focus Day, we look at those 6 disciplines and we say, okay, on a 1 to 100 scale, where are we? And the object of the game isn't to get to 100% because it's impossible, but it's to get from better than 80 in all of the individual categories. And typically, and I don't go through the whole wheel in the 90-minute, but I begin to say, are your meetings effective? Are you meeting the goals and objectives that you really set out for the business? And you can, people don't start this journey without having an opportunity to gain. But as we go through Focus Day, those numbers raise by 10 or 20 points in individual sectors. They'll admittedly get better at one of them than another as they go through. But then they raise through. I've got a client who's just getting ready to start with their annual. They're now at 60s, 70s, and 80s across the board a year long. But the national average, and when we go through our clients and ask them where they are, typically people self-rate at 20. And so what does it mean to get to 40, right? So one of the things that I do as I go through the process is, don't get too hung up on 80. You were at 20. How good does 30 look? How good does 40 look? Great question. What else?
And one of the biggest things that we saw gain traction, if you will, is that people were like, well, wait a minute, this meeting actually took 3 to 4 hours before, and you're telling me we can get this done in 90 minutes? This ain't gonna work. We're gonna leave some critical things out. And once we started, doing these 90-minute meetings and week after week, and things started getting solved, and people started going from now a 4 because they were so scared that some risk levels that were gonna be out there, we're gonna forget to do something, and they started seeing that issues were getting solved, things were getting done. And now it's gaining a lot of traction because guess what? They're like, I can't wait till the next meeting because we know stuff. It's gonna
We're all adults.
just saying, like it is.
You mean they use that word in the military?
I know, I can't believe that.
They
They don't allow that, do they, in the military?
No. But in any case, they got the traction tools that are set up that we're utilizing on our apps based, and people can do it wherever they're at. They can text the issues to the list, and when they come in, it's completely ready to execute and knock it out. People are, it's phenomenal.
You cannot ask for a better testimony. I mean, honestly, think about this. A government agency that is seeing amazing results from this system. Like I said, man, I wish I'd found this 25 years ago. Fortunately, Gino Wickman hadn't published it yet. So,
The government would have found
And you weren't in Detroit.
Yeah. Jim, how do you handle a situation to where, because I know that there's because the book is so good, a lot of companies go out there and they say, well, this is easy, we can do it ourselves. How does it work for you if you've gone in there and an organization has tried to implement, and within whatever time period, 6, 12 months, they've really found, oh my gosh. So they've already got kind of a bitter taste in their mouth.
Yep.
Can you go in there and be able to rekindle and get them refocused on doing it?
It's funny you should ask, Mark.
Okay.
I'm actually working with I'm developing a product which is called an EOS audit. We have one of the members of our Vistage group that read the book, fairly small organization, that having it professionally facilitated sounded like a lot of dollars to them. So they went through and they did a pretty good job of implementing. But I went through and began to build an audit process to say, where are you doing it? Where is it working? And still, where are the gaps? Because there's no judgment in that, and I'll tell you, there's the same, people frequently cluster their mistakes. Often people do exactly the same thing wrong, right, in each of these. So the audit kind of process gets them, if they have a growth mindset, gets them back on track for what's there. There is, I will say, and this sounds like a self-serving statement, and so I say it with some chagrin, but it is so much better to have it professionally facilitated because you need somebody that's not close to the problem in the room, and you need somebody to take a good hard stand for the best practices of the model. What I tell people is, well, we're having a little trouble with this level 10 meeting agenda. Yeah, you and everybody else. Well, we're going to change it to, no, you're not, Stick with it a year for me. Wait till we get to the annual. If you still want to make some changes, we'll make them then, right? But make a stand for here's what works, and in most cases that works. In some cases it doesn't, right?
I would say very few people are able to hold themselves accountable as much as a coach or someone outside.
Absolutely. Whether it's from a financial perspective or any other perspective.
I mean, just because of their own personal biases and beliefs.
Other people's problems are always easy to solve.
Of course.
It's mine that are hard.
I know.
And you don't know what you
Well, wait a
don't
minute.
know.
I have 3 daughters. That's not true. Solving other people's problems. One more question. Anything else before we kind of wrap up here? Because I'm committed to.
Yep.
Anything else? Awesome. Jim, thank you so much.
So who has not read the book? And so, did we grab business cards?
We did, but I think we have some that there's not.
Put some business cards in there. And so
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna,
did.
I will draw the bit from the business cards, and if you already have the book, please wave.
Yeah, let somebody else
Let-
have those.
Let somebody else have it.
Because
Now,
you really need
here's
to
the
read
other advantage
You
of
really
putting.
need to read it.
Here's the other advantage of putting your card in there. I have a set of tools that EOS provides. You know, if you just read the book, I'll send you a PDF or a Word or Excel document of the VTO so that you can use that. I will send that to everybody if you'd like it.
Awesome.
Draw. It's always the prettiest
Draw.
one.
No, it has to be blind draw, otherwise we don't.
Pick them all from round corners.
Sarah,
All right.
you win.
I never win anything.
All right. See,
You're a winner.
Yay. All right. Are you doing a second one or no?
Oh, I'll do a second one, sure.
It is. It's a great book.
Very simplistic.
And the way I keep it fresh is, you know, I've read the book, but I have Audible. And if you don't have Audible and you drive any length of time at all, you need to get Audible on your phone. Because after I've read the book, now I'm listening to them. I'm listening to another great one. I mean, I just listen to books all the time. And
And
by the way,
have-
you can't get anywhere in Dallas without like a 20 to 30 minute car.
And the link I'll send you has links to Kindle version, hard copy, all of those things. Cleveland, Clinton.
Carl Kelson.
That's right. Carl, have you read the book?
No.
Awesome.
Done.
There we go.
Can I have those?
Perfect.
Yes,
Yes.
so I can put them on the
We're
list.
gonna take a picture of them and we'll give them to you.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Okay, so now what? As is our practice. Look, one of the things that I learned a long time ago when I started attending day-long seminars, I'm a huge fan of sharpening the saw. Gene knows that, been with me for 20 years. You know, Mark knows that, he's, you know, part of our businesses for a long time. I'm a big fan of sharpening the saw, but I also found myself falling into the same thing that most people do. You go, you come, you attend something like this, you've written down all kinds of great ideas, you know what you want to do when you get back, and then you forget about it. That's why we've given you that sheet. Take just a couple of minutes before you walk out the door here on the notes that you've made. What are the 2 or 3 things that you're going to go back and do in your business now to make an impact? You know, we're not doing this for our good looks. Neither one of us. Well, Jim might be. I'm
especially
not. You see how good we made him look in that caricature?
Yeah, that's characters.
That's right. We're doing this to help you improve value in your business. That's really what Mastery Partners is all about. We hope that you'll join us. This is a monthly Lunch and Learn series, the Value 90X. It's bringing value to your business in 90 minutes, eventually towards some X transition, right? A transition or transaction. And so in January, we're going to do a repeat for I don't think anybody in the room was here in September. And I am going to force you to drink from a fire hose. I'm going to give you 25 things you can do in your business right now to improve value. That is a 3-hour seminar that I do for Vistage. I do nationally, but I'm going to give you 25 of those things in rapid fire in January. On February 13th, Cleve Clinton is going to talk about the role of a trusted attorney in the whole process of building value and harvesting that value and handling those problems. And then Jeff Sandine is going to talk about the same kind of things from a perspective of a financial planner. Why, you know, I talk to so many business owners who don't have a financial planner, and I say, why? They say, because all my net worth is tied up in this business. That's exactly why you need a financial planner, to help you today to understand what you need. So we'll continue this. That's our lineup for Q1. We're moving, by the way, Q1 to a new location. We will be at venue 4050, which is kind of up at North Dallas. It's about at the intersection of Midway and Beltline. Midway and Beltline. We just needed a bigger space. We had 20 here last time, and it was just a little too crowded, although I love the food here. And please support Lamberti's. They've been very good to us. Great food, good wine list. But we're moving to our new location in January. And then in January, starting in February, we will start our Value Max series. That is a series of intensive workshops, 5 workshops. It's over 5 weeks. not week-long, but 3 hours a week for 5 weeks, where we talk about identifying value in your business, protecting that value, building value, harvesting, and then managing that value. And it's all about setting that long-term vision. And that's a more intense workshop where you're going to be hands-on working on your business. And that will kick off in February. So with that, I thank you. If you celebrate, however you celebrate, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or Christmas, I wish you a wonderful holiday season, and thank you all for coming. Please connect with one another.